Welcome to the Naturally Prosperous Woman podcast. I'm your host, Tara Preston, founder of the Akashic Women's School, mentor to new paradigm leaders for over a decade, and teacher of divine prosperity consciousness. This podcast is dedicated to empowering women leaders around the world who desire to tap into their authentic feminine power for more money, magnetism, and, of course, impact. It's a platform for women leaders wanting to embrace their natural abilities to create, lead, and flow, unlocking their inherent potential for prosperity and living in alignment with their truest selves. Because it's your birthright to flourish in the naturalness of the woman you were born to be. Thanks so much for being here. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome to this episode of the Naturally Prosperous Woman podcast. I am your host, Tara Preston, founder of the Akashic Women's School, guide to visionary new paradigm feminine leaders. And today I am here to talk about visibility. I'm here to talk about visibility and the Holy Trinity of your sacred feminine attraction frequency. All right. So I'm going to share a little bit about this Holy Trinity. It is an invitation to explore your own visibility edges. We all have them. Every next call into more of our evolution is an invitation to take up more space in the physical world with our truth, our gifts, our essence, our expression, our beauty, our power, our wealth. And so very often, and that's such a big part of the space that I hold, this is something that we examine really deeply in the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide certification, which, by the way, pre-sale on now, doors to the pre-sale close Sunday. And then we're going to reopen again in August. And that time there'll be a $1,500 price increase. It's kind of wild, but the pre-sale opens for a very, very short window. Calls in those that just know that this is the pathway for them. And then we close the doors Sunday. We're going to make some edits to the landing page, and then we'll officially open in the middle of August with a price increase. Still be a little bit of savings, but the official opening ceremony is September 21st. And yeah, definitely. I'm going to drop the Akashic Women's Guide landing page below. If you have any questions, you can definitely email me. That information will be below the podcast as well. But without further ado, I want to talk about what these visibility edges are. What is this Holy Trinity, right? And we all have them. And I'm hoping, my intention is, by the end of this short podcast transmission, that you have some clarity around where your visibility edges are. And this is important work. It's important work because if you're on this path, right, you're being called into the fullness of the woman that you were born to be. It is a call to take up as much space as your soul is here to take. Right? And so every evolution is this shedding away, this descending more fully into our body and creating more space in our physical world for more of our expression. And that often happens through a very strong internal root system. So upgrading the internal foundation becomes a really important part in that. And often our visibility edges come back to the internal landscape of who we are. And there's often several threads, several roots that we need to look at, right? And areas that we need to kind of clear out and peel back. And this is where the Akashic Records are so potent, because the Akashic Records are the planet's deepest healing tool, right? The Akashic Records, every soul has an Akashic Record. It records all your karmic history of all the experiences that you have had along your soul path. Past lifetime, present lifetime, ancestrally, right? There's all these different timelines of experiences that we've had, and it gets recorded in the Akashic Record, which we hold at the level of soul, the subconscious cellular level. And so when we go to step into more of our evolution, we can bump up against these edges. And for good reason, because of different traumatic experiences that we've had where it didn't feel safe to take up space with the truth of who we are. But with the Akashic Records, we can very gently but rapidly untangle a lot of these edges and then come back into the deeper root system of who we are and kind of strengthen and prop up those inner areas so that we can move forward with so much more freedom and confidence in a much more accelerated way. Okay, so what is the Holy Trinity, right? What is the Holy Trinity of these three? There's three visibility edges, three really important aspects, especially for the sacred feminine. It's beauty, power, and wealth. You might have an edge around one of them, and you might have an edge around all three. It's very common as we step into more of our evolution to have an edge around all three. It definitely is. But if you've done some work, if you've moved through a bit of an evolution, right? If you've stepped into the next level of your purposeful expression, you may have done some work around some of these edges, right? And so maybe there's one that really kind of pops out to you. So I'm going to break down all three of these, which again, we go through this in the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide certification. Of course, this is a 6-month pathway. So, we go very, very deep into all aspects of this for your personal soulful evolution, and then also how you can facilitate that on behalf of your clients. All right. So the first one, beauty, right? Beauty is all about enjoying who we are, right? Allowing ourselves to be seen in the naturalness of who we are as women, as radiant divine beings. It's about celebrating our uniqueness and allowing that to take up space in the physical world. So it's not necessarily around, more of the patriarchal view of like what beauty needs to look like. And so a lot of times we are moving past that kind of very narrow-minded scope of beauty standards and finding our way into the natural expression of our true beauty, which is a connection to essence, right? It's a connection to the innate divine essence that we are, and allowing the uniqueness of that to shine through and to be able to support ourselves in taking up space. It's such an important part, especially, if we're out there building communities, if we're out there taking our work into the world, it is such an important part of allowing ourselves to be seen in our uniqueness. And the more we can celebrate it, it's very magnetic. It's very charismatic to enjoy our own beauty, to celebrate our own beauty, and to give it permission to take up space in the world around us. Our beauty is also medicine. It is also like this beautiful healing balm and nectar and light that touches those that we interact with. It truly is a gift. But more than that, it allows us to be seen. It allows us to be seen and by our community, right? They can recognize our uniqueness. Like they can truly see us. We're not hiding it. So when people can truly see us, there's a connection that can be made, an authentic connection. And there is so much in that in terms of how we make money, right? The more we can show up, the more that we can connect, the more that we can celebrate the essence of who we are, the more we can build community, the more we can circulate our gifts, the more we can receive divine compensation through the nature of our gifts. So much power there. And so often the nature of holding back our beauty, right, can come from family of origin dynamics. It can definitely come from our relationship to our mother, around the age of like 10, 11, 12, when we're stepping into our natural sexuality, just the naturalness of our beauty. We can sometimes have the projections of our mother's wounding around what it means to celebrate our natural beauty and be in the naturalness of our sexuality as women. And then it can definitely be dimmed down. It can definitely be dimmed down that way, right? And so some of these things that I'm talking about too are very relatable to just, core collective feminine wounds. This is something we also get into in the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide certification. And there are many, but we definitely have a collective feminine wound around what it means to be in our beauty as women, but it can play out through multiple timelines. So definitely in our relationship to with our mother, because it's collective. So their journey around being in their beauty and celebrating their beauty, oftentimes they have pain and separation and wounds around that. And then our experience as young women, that gets transferred onto us. That can also show up too, just around our young relationship with the masculine. Right? Like really allowing the lens of the masculine to shape our identity and our experience of our beauty and our sexuality. And so getting to know our beauty is really an intimate journey into knowing ourselves first and foremost and celebrating ourselves, right? Like, who am I? What do I like? What is unique about me? And how can I learn to celebrate that and cherish that and see it as a gift? And there's strands and layers to that as well, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And this holy trinity, right, of these visibility wounds, they kind of, there's an overlapping nature to them. So just listen. And these are really, I teach a lot through transmission. Just bring forward the medicine. It's here for you to take what works. The last piece that I wanted to talk about, around beauty, though, is that this can definitely play out in terms of the sisterhood wound. The sisterhood wound, right? We can have some like jealousy, competition. So it pulls more from like the core collective, like feminine wounding lens. But think about your experiences, with even if you had siblings who were sisters or just your sisters, right? As a young woman. I know for myself, I have experiences of being 12, 13, 14 and having a desire to, I always really loved like makeup and clothes and like just expressing myself that way. And then sometimes it would be triggering for other girls or I'd get comments, and that was like, that's my lens of expression. That doesn't necessarily mean it's yours. There's so many ways, right? Sometimes just being in nature is something illuminates our beauty. But there were triggers from other young women. And I really carried that in terms of what that meant for me to enjoy my beauty and to be in my expression. So we have those layers. And so part of the healing, is just recognizing where that exists, where the wounds are, and then coming back to the innate connection and source of our own beauty and getting to understand and cultivate a connection to that and giving ourselves permission to lead with that, to take up space with that in the world and recognize it as a contribution. All right. It's like you are here to shine bright in the world with all of who you are. And we hear that and we know that, but it's like, where's the edge around where we don't feel safe in doing that? So this is the first invitation, is to start to get to know what that looks like for you. Beauty is a really important aspect of the sacred feminine. It's very nourishing. All right, the next one, power. Oh, power. We all have this powerful woman inside of us. We all have this powerful woman inside of us. Every next level of our evolution, every time we are called into more of our evolution, is an invitation to embody more of our power, to take up more of our power. Only a lot of us have some buried baggage in our shadow around being the too much woman, right? What does it feel like? I'm laughing because I know this one. I know some of you can recognize this, right? Oh, we don't want to be too much. We don't want to take up space being too much in our power, right? It'll draw attention. It'll upset somebody. It'll trigger somebody. Somebody won't like that. Somebody will feel threatened by that. And we have so many edges that around that keeps us small, and it can be really subconscious, which again, the Akashic Records are so brilliant at getting in and underneath the shadow aspects, the soupy subconscious layers, and actually untangling it and unraveling it very, very quickly. And then we also want to look at like, how are we strengthening the root system? So power. So here's the thing though, with highly sensitive women, which a lot of like visionary way showing women like absolutely are. We're awake. We've cultivated our gifts. Our intuition is alive. We feel things. And so what can often happen when we start to take up more space with our power, right? And take a moment and tune into that powerful woman inside of you. Close your eyes. Tune into her, right? And it really, we all have her inside of us, that beautiful, powerful, wealthy version of who we are. And we'll get to wealth, and wealth can mean different things to different people, right? Like this is all about like authentic, spiritual, feminine leadership. You defining you. So that is always the invitation. So, power. Where were we? Power. Okay. So for highly sensitive women, what can often happen is that this can play out definitely in our relationship with other women, for sure, where we feel the call to rise in more of our power, right? But it feels daunting to step more fully into that, because when we do, there's like a vibrational shift in our relationship dynamics. Right. And so sometimes we can either feel like it's going to create upset or disharmony, right? Or it's going to be threatening to someone else. Or we can sometimes feel like we're going to take away from someone else, like we're going to outshine someone else, right? And so we dim it down, we pull it back, we shrink in order to attempt to make others feel safe around us. And there can be some codependent patterns around that, which the Akashic Records are beautiful at clearing that out too. But mostly, when we can have the awareness and when we can recognize where maybe we're doing that, right? There's something so beautiful that happens though, as we step into and as we say yes to showing up in more of our powerful woman self and more of our too much self, right? There is a vibrational, what is the word? A ripple. There's a vibrational ripple that happens through our experience when we step into more of our power. And the people around us do feel it. And it can push up against different relationship dynamics. It can push up against your partners, you and your partner. You might have a sister relationship dynamic or a friend, right? And that's a natural part of change. But the gift is that we are setting ourselves free. We are choosing us. And what I find more often than not is those around us are actually, it's an invitation for them to rise and step into more of their power too. And there can be like a little bit of like, dynamic shifting where someone may be a little bit like triggered because we're rising in our power and we set a boundary and that kind of thing. But in the end, it is a gift to you. It is a gift to the world around you. Stepping more fully into your power is definitely a part of your evolution, and there can be ripples effects and there can be shifting relationship dynamics, but it ultimately leads to more freedom. Your creative power exists in your power. It's very, very magnetic. And the more that we can do that and the more that we can step into that, the more space and freedom we create for ourselves, the more magnetic we become, the more that we attract and call in our desires with ease, right? Because we're not hiding and entangled in relationship dynamics that don't serve our evolution and that powerful version of us. But we can learn to create safety internally by checking in with the inner child. So when we talk about power, we talk about authentic leadership, oftentimes when we don't feel safe to step more fully into our power, right? When it's like, oh, I so want to show up in a new way. I so want to show up more powerfully. I so want to like take up more space with more of who I am. And we're hesitant and we're not quite sure why we can't step beyond the edge of that. The inner child is a beautiful place to land. And that, again, is something we do get into in the Akashic Women's Guide certification program in a very deep way. It's also a deep part of the space that I hold when working with visionary women leaders who are exploring that edge, right? Creating safety with the inner child. Also looking at and examining those family of origin wounds, right? Like where maybe there's patterns showing up that make it harder to show up in this new place of power. But if there's anything that we can do, if we're feeling that edge of stepping more fully into our power, is recognizing it is a gift. There is the ripple, that oftentimes it can be very, very inspiring, right? It's like we step into more of our power, but our community, the ones we're here to serve, feel so lit by that, right? Where some of the relationship dynamics around us, they may be a little bit old and outdated and keeping us small and not serving our evolution. Right? Doesn't necessarily serve our expansion, but in the end, it'll be a gift to those around us and truly to your community, right? Like they are the ones that are just waiting for this as you step out in service. And finally, I want to move on to wealth. Wealth is a really interesting one because I don't know, for me, I kind of think of wealth as like it's an invisible energy, but yet it's not. Right? And this kind of like ties into the too much woman, right? This like being like too much. Like, who are you to be beautiful, powerful, and wealthy? And wealth will look different for everyone. Again, I really want to emphasize that. Like for me, it's like I live semi off grid. I'm in a Mongolian yurt right now recording my podcast. I'm looking at my garden. For me, wealth is really about the joy of living, about having an overflow of abundance, about being able to have spaciousness and freedom, which I have a ton of, and about being able to create life on my terms, right? And making money doing it and having that money multiply, right? Because it is an aspect of visibility to take up more space with how much money we're making, how much money we're saving, how much money we're allowing to multiply, right? And we have edges around that. And there's always that upgrade around our belief system too, especially with wealth and power, right? There's always that upgrade with our belief system. But wealth, right? Raising our prices, asking to be paid well for our gifts, receiving even more money through our services, and holding more money in our field. That's a visibility piece. Like it's like you're allowing yourself to vibrationally show up in like a very powerful surplus place, a very powerful surplus place. I'm just going to take a little sip. I'm drinking some tea. I'm going to take a pause. So just starting to feel into, and if wealth isn't your word, for a long time I was, using the word prosperity, but it really is. I went from that place of like, starting my journey, like 12, 13 years ago. I mean, the first few years it was a lot of struggle. I wasn't making a lot of money. And really, I just didn't feel enough on my journey. I didn't feel enough. I didn't have enough. I was playing quite small, but it was very safe, right? I could stay seen. My essence could stay hidden. Sorry, not stay seen. And then I came into this place of like, no, I am enough. And then I started to have enough, right? And there was like more prosperity circulating through my experience. And then it's this place of like, no, I am more than enough. I am too much, and that's a gift, right? It is safe to take up space with that. And so the wealthy woman, I just want to tune into that for a second. We're in this place of really bridging this gap between being spiritual and being of service through our wealth on the planet, like the wealthy, healer even, right? Like, there's an archetypal kind of like consciousness even around that, to be the wealthy healer, right? Like, who are you? Who are you to be the wealthy healer, the wealthy, powerful, beautiful healer? right? If that kind of like brings in a new framework, right? But you are deserving and worthy of having money meet you in a beautiful, delicious energy of surplus, of ease, while being of service, while enjoying your life, while being vibrant in your power and beautiful, right? We're all beautiful. Beauty is an energy. So there is an edge around what it means. And so some women will have different patterns around, maybe you're able to like make the money, but you can't hold the money, right? Because there's something around what it means to be able to hold that expansion, right? Like what exists in that place of showing up in your beauty, power, and wealth. So a lot of this too is just recognizing, as a highly sensitive woman, too. And this is, it's again, we're recognizing that we do feel things. So when we create a change, when we say yes to showing up more fully, when we strengthen the inner root system and clear out the crap, that we do feel a vibrational shift, not just within ourselves. Obviously, when we shift, our internal framework, there is just a natural mirroring effect, and then also the vibrational ripple. And so it's just that continuing invitation to look at how to create safety in the system as you move forward. And there's so many ways to do that when we're talking about, nervous system recalibration work and building sustainable energy and really building an inner foundation to hold, an inner and outer foundation to hold it all. But we really want to always bring it back to safety in the system. And the inner child is such a beautiful resource. So we've talked about, the inner child. We've talked about this beautiful, powerful this beautiful, powerful woman that lives inside of you. Another really great way to kind of pull this all together is that invitation to connect to the woman that you are becoming. Like, who are you being called to be? Like, who is that woman and how does she show up in the world? She can often be a really great source of inspiration, of guidance, of wisdom, right? If it's like you aren't feeling safe, if there's some kind of safety piece coming up, you can often refer to her as a guide and as an ally. Like, she can show you where your edges are, and she can also show you who you're being called into, what version of you you're being called into. And so just taking a moment and tuning into her, right? This woman, again, she lives inside of us, but we're also like examining this like timeline of who are we stepping into next? Where is the evolution? And maybe that is with the birth of a sacred program or some kind of creation. And that's often, I love doing it that way. It's like, ooh, I've got, a new sacred body of work coming through. I can feel the shift. I can feel the evolution. What is this calling me into? What is that next version of me? Right? And what is the vibration that exists within that space? But mostly I'm just getting to know, like, how is she showing up? What is the alignment? Where is she showing up as the evolution of me more fully embodied in my wealth, in my beauty, in my power? So just taking a moment, closing your eyes. I love to kind of see myself sitting in this like beautiful like waiting room. There's light filtering through the windows. It's very calm and peaceful. There's plants. And I'm in the waiting room. And all of a sudden the door opens. And that future version of me that's, not too far away, that I'm on the edge of stepping into, she shows up. She walks in. Right? And she's showing me who I am being called to step into. So I want you to go ahead and like walk over to her. Notice what you notice about her. Like, what's her vibration like? Her body language like? How is she showing up? What is she showing you about who you are embodied as you step into the next evolution of your beauty, your power, your wealth? And then go ahead and pull her into your body. Send her love. She's going to send you love. And then just pull her into your body. Pull her into your body. And then I just want you to see yourself as her. See yourself as her. Because part of this too, when I'm walking women through embodied soul level transformation, which really is the essence of the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide certification, it is a deep exploration and journey of embodied soul level transformation. Right? It's the shifting of vibrational states. It's the journey of becoming embodied in the next version of who we were being called to be, right? To support our evolution, the evolution of soul, of essence, of service. So from this place, you're seeing yourself as her. Let her land in your body. Let her land in your cells. And this is such an amazing practice, which, by the way, if you haven't signed up yet, go grab my Radiant Morning Power Hour. This is one of the key pieces that I talk about starting your day with. And it doesn't have to be every day, but some days, or Monday to Friday, really aligning yourself to that version of you. Because what happens is that we start our day from this energetic space. We start to move like her. We start to act like her. We start to make choices and decisions from that vibrational space. And it can actually really accelerate our alignment. It can accelerate the transformation. Right? Because we're starting to anchor in and get to know and kind of taste the energy and the medicine of her. So we start to narrow the gap on a daily basis. And it is powerful. We start to viscerally feel that version of who we are being called to be. It also takes us out of distraction, right? Sometimes I can get pulled into different relationship dynamics that are old. They need to shift. But I always know I can come back to this place. So in the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide certification, we also get into timeline activation, Akashic timeline activation, really setting the pathway for transformation. We do it from the Akashic Records and the higher self perspective, but I wanted to give kind of a mini taste and a tool that you can use to journey forward with. So I feel that this is complete for today, but I want to make that invitation to just kind of sit with everything, to really feel into kind of the most important insight or wisdom or aha, something that really sparkled for you through the transmission today. Really, and maybe there's some space needed to maybe journal with it, peel back some layers around it. Right? To come back into some of the root system work I talked about, to strengthen that, to tend to that, to love up on that part of you, to connect to that part of you, right? And then move forward on your path. Go and share who you are. Go and stand in this holy trinity of beauty, power, and wealth as you take your gifts out into the world, as you make more money, as you shine in your leadership, as you carve your own path of service, anchoring in a beautiful new paradigm. Thank you so much for being here. Come and join us in the Akashic Women's Community Facebook group. I would love to connect with you. I'd love to hear what you have to share. And I'm going to drop the link for the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide certification. Presale closes Sunday midnight. Reach out if you have questions. I would love to hear from you. And if you are interested in exploring private work, I've got a 4-month container and a year-long spot open right now. I'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now. Hello, friend. Thanks for joining us this week. If you'd like to stay in touch, head on over to the Akashic Women's Community on Facebook group. Come share your takeaways, your insights, your reflections. I would absolutely love to hear. If you'd like to deepen into any part of this work, head on over to the akashicwomenschool.com/free-gift and grab the Akashic Radiant Womb Awakening and Clearing Morning Practice to start to sink into your feminine power. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.